Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today on this special edition of In Touch with InSource. I'm Jessica Terry, and I have some amazing guests with me today. As you may have seen a theme going on our socials and webinars, November is Family Engagement Month. And so to continue that celebration, I have some very important people here who I would like to introduce to you now to have a special conversation surrounding family engagement. So I'm going to start off with our wonderful family engagement director, Natalie. Natalie, would you like to introduce yourself for everyone watching?
Yes, hello everyone. Again, my name is Natalie Hicks. I am the Director of Family Engagement here at InSource, and we are your Indiana Statewide Family Engagement Center. Hopefully, you actually watched a couple of weeks ago my special edition of Family Engagement and what we offer to the state of Indiana. And I kind of gave a plug of the wonderful LEAs that I currently work with, and two actually decided to join me today. So thank you for having us, Jess, here.
Absolutely. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves as well. Jamila, if you'd like to start, just let everybody know where you're from and what your role is.
Sure. So my name is Jamila Adams. I am the Assistant Director of Curriculum and Assessment here at Gary Community School Corporation. And I also serve as the coordinator for the Effect Grant, which is under InSource. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And Jeremy?
Good morning. I'm Jeromy Sheets. I am the Goshen Community Schools Attendance Coordinator Officer, and I'm on a team that works with the Effect Grant and Family Engagement in our district. Lori Schreiner's the Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Education, and also Sandra Perez is at our district office with the EL department. And they can't be here today, but that just makes a great team to work with.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, thank you again for joining us. And Natalie, I know you had alluded to your previous special edition live, but just in case somebody did not get an opportunity to check that out, we are talking about Family Engagement Month. What does family engagement mean?
Family engagement means that really having the families and the educators at the table to create those goals for that child, for that student, for the district, embedded in everything that they do. Family engagement is everyone, again, from the bus driver to the cafeteria worker, to the front office staff, to your teacher, instructional assistant, the principal, district staff. Family engagement should be embedded in everything that you do at the district level to work together for the common goal, and which is improving student outcomes.
Awesome. I love it. So you mentioned schools and you mentioned families, but InSource is Indiana State Family Engagement Center. So what does that look like? What does that mean to be the state's Family Engagement Center?
That really means that what we do is support educators, support families, lift up their family engagement practices that they are working on, and look for opportunities to improve it, to improve student outcomes. Like I said, that's the overall goal. And what we're learning is really it's shifting the mindset from family involvement to actually family engagement. Because unfortunately, a lot of our educators were not educated on what really true family engagement is. And that's what we're learning too. We're gaining our knowledge. And then now we are just providing that knowledge to different districts. Again, we have 5 model sites that we are working with throughout the state of Indiana, and they're doing amazing things in their district. And I'm sure if you're watching this, that you could point out a district within the state of Indiana that we're working with that you can see your eyes in. We have Gary, which is Jamila's on a line right now. We have Goshen. Jeremy's here to talk about Goshen. We also have MSD Warren Township in Indianapolis. We have BCSC, which is Bartholomew County. And down south, we have Perry Central, which is all the way down south on the river. And all of them are doing amazing things in their own district. We, as a family engagement center, can provide professional development resources, tools, one-on-one walkthroughs, whatever you need, we could provide or find someone to do it to increase your family engagement. We also offer webinars, trainings, modules is on our InSource website. We have a CPAC summit coming up in January. Please check out our InSource website calendar for that. We have monthly newsletters to give you a little bit of tidbits about family engagement. It's usually the last Friday of the month that InSource sends out. So if you want to be a part of that, please let us know and we will put you on a mailing list. We have a variety of things to make sure that the state of Indiana is equipped with family engagement and sitting at the table. And we use the dual capacity model that we really bring educators and families together to co-create those goals and build up everyone's capacity for the outcomes of that particular student.
I love it. I love it so much. Well, I do have some questions for you all, but before we get into that, I would like to know from Jamila and Jeromy, what does family engagement look like in your schools? What types of things, as a model site, are you doing to make that happen, I guess? Or what does it mean to be a model site? I guess I should have phrased it that way.
I can go first. So what does it mean to be a model site? To me, it means that we are kind of able to test out what works, so that other folks can kind of follow behind and not have to necessarily, reinvent the wheel. But we are actually kind of testing out some things, creating some strategies and structures that work in our community so that other districts that may look like our communities, or have similar barriers or challenges can kind of have a blueprint already, that they can follow to increase parent engagement in their own districts.
Love it.
Yeah, I think that's great, Jamila. And I think the one part that I would add is just the opportunity to the funding that we're allowed to have that just strengthens some of those constraints that districts are having nowadays to cut costs and different things. And then just more of a focus on looking through everything through the family's point of view, and what we can do with our communication, with our different events that we do. Everything kind of just funnels through, hey, what's best for families, which we know what it is, but it's just getting the feedback from the family's point of view also. And then I just add, just to be on that kind of cusp of trying things and working out and bouncing off different our different LEAs and sharing and getting feedback. That's just been beneficial to our district also.
So to kind of piggyback off that, Jeromy, I'm gonna put you on the spot. What does meaningful family engagement really look like then to you in schools and communities today? And Jamila, I'll invite you to answer the same question after as well.
Yeah, I think I touched on it a little bit. I think, sometimes we go in with our trail and our setup of it's going to be like this and this and this, but it's looking through more like, what does it mean to effectively work with a family? And we've, as a district, we've really talked about kind of our long range this year is looking at how does family engagement fit into the different tiers. And what I mean by tiers is like tier 1 students, that's what we do for all kids. Tier 2 is what are the interventions or things or supports we put in for those type of kiddos. And then if it gets to that not working, what are the tier 3 things? And so instead of going into those meetings with it's going to look like this and look like this, it's been more like, hey, inviting them to share the strengths and ideas that really come through from it. And that's really, really been a big plus for our district.
Awesome.
And I'll say, so what does family engagement look like for us? I think historically, there has been just across the board when it comes to family engagement, it's been a we do to you or we give you this, whereas we want to shift to having families at the proverbial table and literal table to be able to share their ideas, to be able to make decisions. I like to say we co-parent with our parents. Like these are their kids, but we have them a pretty decent amount of time. And so looking at them as co-parents, like how do we do what's in the best interest for our children? And if you're a co-parent, there's not just one parent making all of the decisions and then just keeping you abreast of the decisions that are made. We actually have to make these decisions together. And so I think that's where we're trying to shift, where that other co-parent feels comfortable coming into those conversations, knowing that, empowering them to know that they have some voice in the matter, and then taking what they say into consideration as opposed to just kind of talking at them.
What are some of the biggest barriers do you feel like families face when it comes to family engagement? And are there strategies or tips that you can that you guys are doing that you could help remove them?
So I'll say some of the biggest barriers that I've seen when we think about socioeconomics in our community, transportation has been a huge barrier. And so we've had to start to do things virtually, or we have to really be intentional about the times that we do things. If a parent is already up at a school to drop their kid off, that's going to be an optimal time to get them as opposed to having them come back again at another time and possibly having to take the bus again to get back. Another major thing, even beyond transportation or finances, is the mindsets of the people that are in the buildings that they have to come into. So if I've come in, just like any customer service business, if I've come in and I've had a bad experience at a place, I am not likely to want to come back there, right? So we've had to work to shift the mindsets of the adults in these spaces and move them from looking at the behavior of a parent when they come in, to looking at why the behavior is that way, what need should be addressed, and move to a more restorative place. So that's been a large portion of what we've been working on over the last months, is this mindset shift. And that really has started to change how folks interact with our parents, because that's going to be the first barrier beyond transportation, beyond money. If I'm not treated well when I come in a space, I don't want to go there.
Yeah.
And so that's probably been the biggest thing that we've worked on.
Yeah, you just want to be heard, right?
Absolutely.
How about you, Jeromy?
Yeah, as Jamila's talked about some things, just that mindset of shifting from like a deficit-based thinking to an asset-based thinking. Like, where is this student excelling, and where can we build on those type of things? Because we all know that there's some excel in academics, some excel in extracurriculars or things like that. Also, Jamila touched on it too. Not blaming, but what can we control? What can we do? So what can the school do to make it easier for the families? And sometimes it is those virtual meetings. Sometimes it is meeting at a time that works for them. Sometimes it is the home visit aspect of it. We've also worked really hard, and Jamila talked on it too, but in our district, of just the welcoming schools and to get developing scripts to help them and support them so that they know, hey, you don't have to just go with something. We can support you with the language to help you. And that goes with the parents that come in sometimes hot, and just that listening and what you need to do there. And sometimes it's just you're going to busy in the office. Like, how do we get that shift off of our work to that the people come into us so that they feel more welcome? So I really feel good about the mindset of our barriers, and not seeing it as a negative, but as a strength, and how can we move forward?
Almost seeing as instead of a barrier, like a challenge to do something about it or to do something better. So I love that. Yeah. So I feel like you have all somehow or somewhat alluded to this next question that I have, but how can schools and families co-create the environments where every child feels a sense of belonging?
I would probably say you have to have representation of every child. So you have representation across ethnic lines, you have representation across socioeconomic lines, you have representation from general education to special education. Like you have to have representation from all families that represent all students, and that way everybody has a voice. Now, of course, everybody is not going to feel the same in every group, but that's a good place to start, is to have that representation. That way you're hearing various perspectives, and then kind of in turn having those parents kind of be ambassadors to other parents. That draws in more of kind of the experience of those parents or the concerns of those parents. And so really utilizing those parents as ambassadors and not just having them come in knowing that they're representing their own students, but then also kind of using them as the vehicle to get more parents in from the community. They're more likely to kind of relate to other parents as opposed to like district staff or school staff. So I think having parents, strong parent advocates, and them acting as ambassadors really starts to bring in the parents, and that can increase that family engagement piece. But that's how you kind of get that voice if you have somebody that represents every group that you have at your school district.
Yeah.
I love that. And just to add, it took me back about 2 weeks ago. We had an event that focused on attendance at one of our elementary schools, kind of a pilot program that we partnered with a local resource. And in that, we found we really want to be intentional about making sure that the families had time together at the beginning with everybody to kind of connect with each other. And I showed up a little bit late to the event, but the time that we had set aside for that meal slash time together had gone over. And then in talking to the principal about that, it was just because it was going so well with the families just connecting with each other. They had just allowed it to go a little bit over. The other big thing that we've been doing to create more belonging is really our communication app, Parent Square. It can communicate in the language that the families need. And so, that we sometimes find that's you didn't call it a barrier, you called it something else. I like what you called it, an opportunity. And that's helped us where families feel more comfortable communicating sometimes through the app when they know that they're going to be understood instead of like their home language.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really, it sounds like you both, and I'm sure all of the LEAs have done a really good job of rethinking that communication so families do feel informed and empowered and connected. So great job, guys. So last but not least, this is kind of a question to that would help other school districts or providers watching. What's one practice that any school can start tomorrow to strengthen the relationships with families? Like if they were going to start an initiative tomorrow, what's just one thing that they could do to get, obviously you can do more if you want, but just one thing to get started.
I would probably say, and it's hard to narrow it down to one.
Right. We've got time for a few.
I would say one thing is I feel like parents show up when it's something that their kids are displaying. So if there's something where they can come support their kids, so creating more of those opportunities, awards, assemblies, things like that, where their parents can come be proud of them. But I would say one thing that very intentionally can be done easily is if you already have certain teaming structures. So if you have, your culture and climate team, if you have an attendance team, carving out a seat for a parent representative on all of those teams, and then getting those parents that you feel like are the more vocal parents, are the ones that advocate for their children, and then placing them or, asking them to be on those teams. That way you get parent representation. So even if you don't have parent advisory councils at every school, you can at least have a parent representative on your tier 1 culture and climate team, or you can have a parent representative on your district's regional stakeholder group, or however you're going to incorporate them. But that's something really easy because you already have your structures in place, just adding a parent representative role to those structures. And then that brings in the parent voice pretty immediately. And you really don't have to do anything outside of what you're normally doing.
I love that.
One of the things that I think Goshen's done a great job of, we have a Red Ox Rising stakeholders group. It involves community, parents, school. But one thing in those groups, what we've been doing is we'll meet, we'll get some feedback, we'll do some action, and then we'll bring it back to that group so that they can then push out the good stuff that's going, or we'll find ways, whether through our communication director or our communication platform or newsletters by principals, to get out. Because sometimes you have to tell your story and the good stuff you're doing. And I think if parents they see the actions that are happening and they circle back to it and they can hear about it and see it, it makes them more energized and that they're making a difference. The other big move that I would say is that listening part. Like, don't have all the answers or feel like you have to have all the answers. Families are complex. And like I think we touched on earlier, there are, maybe they're a family that has had a bad experience. You can change that. And you just got to believe in that. And I think that by partnering with and instead of partnering to, it makes a huge, huge difference, not only in your staff, in your schools, but in your students too, because it kind of trickles down. And that's been a great impact on our district.
That's awesome. Again, to reiterate, everybody just wants to be heard, and that transparency, I believe, goes a long way with, humans in general, but especially parents that you're caring for their children. So thank you for that. Right. Well, that is some great information. Do any of you, Natalie, I don't want to leave you out as well, have any last minute thoughts or comments you'd like to make? We've had some good discussion today.
We have. I've taken away a couple of points from you guys, even though I work with you on a regular basis. I'm still learning. I love that Jamila said co-parenting. I never looked at it that way. You're co-parenting with the parents, and actually, it's kind of a hot moment. You really are. And I loved how Jeromy said home visits. Sometimes it's really meeting the families where they are. And I know that some educators kind of home visits. I don't know about that, but feel free to be vulnerable. Maybe it's not in the home. It could be down the street at the McDonald's, outside of that school building, to meet them in the library, just to get that connection, to start building that relationship. One thing I thought about that could be implemented as soon as tomorrow or today, it's, start making those connections with the families. Share a phone call, positive. Let me tell you what Sally did today. Let me tell you what Johnny did today. I know Warren Township in Indianapolis is sending out postcards in the mail, in the actual mail. And they have an initiative to send out every student or family would get one that throughout this year. just to tell you the great things that they're doing, because we as parents love to hear that. So that's one thing that I can say that you guys can implement starting today, is making those positive connections with the families. If it's a text message, a phone call, or snail mail, or an email, reach out and connect.
That made me think just of some things that we're trying to lift up, and Jamila talked on it too. They families want to see their child present and get out there and do things. And so what we're really trying to do is incorporate some of the research-based best practices into those events. So we've got strong events already in our district, and so how do we just lift them up a little bit to make them more of a we instead of to you? So we incorporate a couple little informational things that we can give some information about, or just some question and answer time into those events. So that's been one of the big things too, is just it doesn't have to be a whole new event. It can be, how can we just make this event a little more family friendly?
And I'll say the other thing that I think is really important when we think about the culture and climate of schools and like welcoming parents in, is to not talk over parents' heads, right? So we just actually talked about this yesterday. We use a lot of acronyms and a lot of jargon in education, and parents come in and are like, what are you talking about? And not every parent feels comfortable enough to speak up for fear of how it might look that they don't understand what we're talking about. So including parents in these conversations, being very clear and communicating updates at the district or at the school and like keeping them in the know, but then also thinking about how you're communicating and making sure that it's explained enough where a parent can understand what you're talking about. They don't have to like work in a classroom to understand what you're saying. And so that they can really fully be a partner, because they can't fully partner if they have no idea what we're talking about. So just thinking about how we communicate with our parents and kind of bring them into the know.
I'll just add one little thing, and it's that I think we've gotten a lot of feedback about our families want to hear from the teachers. They get a little more stressed out when they hear from the administrator or something else. They just really want to hear from the teacher. And so we've tried to make little scripts. You know, if Johnny misses school, it's just, hey, saw Johnny wasn't here today. Hope he's doing okay. And there's usually a response back. It's not, nag, nag, nag. It's just, hey, I noticed. And then when that kid comes back, it's not, where were you? It's like, I'm glad you're here. Or if a student comes in the building late, it's not, why were you late? It's, man, we're glad you made it here today. And so just trying to build on those relationships, because I think Natalie talked about it earlier. I can't say enough about our bus drivers. They're the first ones to see our kids, and they can impact our kids so much. And so we've done some training for bus drivers and all our different staff. And so just looking forward to the continued efforts and hearing all the great stories from the different LEAs too. So
Love it. Love it. I sitting here listening to you just definitely makes me hopeful for the future. Thank you so much for the work that you all are putting into this. As a parent, it makes me emotional to think that you are putting so much thought into the engagement of families, and this work is life changing. It can change lives, not can, it will change lives because of your efforts to communicate and to engage, people. So, so thank you for that. Absolutely. So, and thank you for joining us today. It's been truly a pleasure, and I hope that you will come back and visit us and tell us more about all the wonderful things that you are doing and seeing in your school districts. So for those of you watching, thank you for watching. If you have any more questions or want more information on family engagement, or how we as the Family Engagement Center do things, you can visit our website at www.insource.org. And at the top, you will see a tab that says Family Engagement Center. And that has all information regarding that. So Thank you again, Jamila, Jeromy, and Natalie, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.